All right, so I wanted to be one of the first ones to bring you this speech from Senator Josh Hawley. He's a senator, Republican senator out of Missouri. On a personal level, I do love delivering loads to Missouri. It's great pay, and it's some really beautiful scenery. So that's just a side note. But anybody who knows me knows that Ulysses Grant and Teddy Roosevelt are my two favorite presidents of all time. Fuck Lincoln, fuck Reagan, and of course the list can go on how many presidents on both sides of the aisle that I do hate. But definitely my top three, with JFK as number third, as number three. But this is really some Teddy Roosevelt shit. This is truly American populism, working class. Building back the American family, and I think he is hitting on all cylinders here with the tile tax credit proposal that he's introducing. And he is spot on. He is also being very critical of what the Republican Party has done since the Reagan days. This is I'm not going to really spend too much time bashing Reagan, but I do not fuck with Reagan at all. Mainly because the Iran Contra. That is that was one of the worst scandals. That's probably one of the worst things that an American president could have done in modern history. But yeah, he's really spot on here. He's very critical of the Republican Party. He's definitely saying that we need to be more adamant about building up the middle class, building up families, and making sure that the working class, because they did give Trump this mandate, that they do focus on, making sure there's more money in people's pockets. So I think he's hitting on all cylinders. Of course, the Republican Party, the last time that a vote like this, a bill like this was introduced, they did not pass it. Majority of them. Um, voted against it. So, we'll see how far this goes. But Josh Hawley does have a little bit of pull. I'd probably say medium pull with inside the Republican Party. And because he's kind of coming from their flank, I do think that they may, um, get on this agenda, especially if he can get the president behind him. But we shall see. This is some shit JD Vance wouldn't have even done because the last time that this bill was introduced, it was pretty much a no support from JD Vance. So, yeah, let's take a look. I think he's spot on. And I think the criticisms that he have is also spot on.
We are here in the second week of the 119th Congress with enormous work to do. We have a border to secure, we have streets to make safe, we have an economy to resurrect, we have, in short, a great nation to rebuild. And nothing could be more central to that rebuilding than the strengthening of the American family. And nothing could be more urgent for our future than the revival of the American working class. And those two things, Madam President, go precisely together. The truth is, we have been living these last 40 years or so in the great American decline. Our economy has declined. We were once the manufacturing and trade capital of the world. Everybody wanted to trade with us. We were the envy of the world in every possible way economically. That's not true any longer. Now we are a debtor nation. Our standing in the world has declined. We were the leader of the free nations not so long ago. Now the nations of the world rush to court China and regard the United States as yesterday's news. Our cities have declined. They're not safe. Our health has declined. Our hope for the future has eroded. And all the while, this town has plowed ahead with the failed policies of the last 40 years. This town has assured us that everything is fine. We only need to spend a little bit more, issue a little bit more debt, give our giant corporations a few more tax breaks, maybe get involved in another foreign war or two. This town has pursued the projects of the governing class and neglected the weightier matters, the well-being.
And he is definitely spot on. Um, I'm almost really shocked that he has openly came out and said this, but pretty much fuck the oligarch, you know, fuck. all the people that, you know, that Congress wants to support, big pharma, the prison industrial complex, the military industrial complex, you know, the media industrial complex. They want to sit here and line their own pockets, get rich. You got Nancy Pelosi out here, got hundreds of millions of dollars. She swears that she's better than, you know, um, Warren Buffett at trading stocks. You have a large majority of these senators who've been in here, 20, 30 years. They're fucking old, decrepit. You got Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell in a walker in a fucking wheelchair. And, they're literally just swallowing corporate meat every 5 minutes. There's never a war that they don't like. Um, and he is definitely spot on here. Um, and I do want to kind of go back and say that this is also a Democratic problem. Um, the Rand Corporation literally says that over $50 trillion has been stolen from the middle class in the past 40, 50 years. So this is just, you know, complete annihilism, annihilation of the working class. Um, and, things definitely have to change. We can no longer just sit here and just vote somebody because they're Republican or because they're Democrat. We really have to start asking, what are your policies? Are you going to bring back jobs? Are you going to get us in forever wars? A lot of these questions have to be asked, and we deserve answers. And we deserve not only just answers, but we deserve true votes and policies. And we, we deserve results and we should demand them.
of our families and of our working people. And Madam President, let's be honest. My party, the Republican Party, has too often in these years been part of the problem. The Republican Party has too often spoken up for corporate interests rather than for the interests of families. The Republican Party has too often cooperated with a corporate agenda rather than an agenda to empower workers. We need a change in this town. We need a change in this Congress. We need a change in this party. And that is the opportunity that we have in the moment before us. Because I submit to you, Madam President, the fact is this: you can measure the strength of a nation in the strength of its families. And you can study the struggles of a nation in the struggles of its working people. And right now, our families and our working people in this country are struggling. There was a time not so long ago in this country when a man who got a high school degree and then got a job and then worked at it decidedly and learned a skill and worked hard and saved, where he would be able to provide for a family, start a family, get married, provide for kids, have a future, have something to look forward to. That's just not true anymore. Those days, in fact, are long since gone. During the last 40 years, real wages for working people have flatlined. And during the last 4 years, real wages for working people have declined. Here's just one measure of that. The Bureau of Economic Analysis reports that disposable income, that's income after taxes, fell almost 10% during Joe Biden's presidency. And that was, I might emphasize, for all earners. That drop was even higher, more steep, and more devastating for America's working people and for America's working families. The fact of the matter is, there's no such thing as a family wage any longer, not in this economy. Now parents have to work multiple jobs to support just one or two kids if they can afford to have children at all. I mean, let's just think, in the 1960s, the average family had just shy of 4 children. Today, that number has fallen by more than half. And here's the really interesting thing. Families today tell researchers they would like to have more children. To be specific, more than half, approaching 60% of American families tell researchers that they would like to have more kids, but they don't. Why not? Because they can't afford it. And that's all families. The numbers are higher, once again, for working class families. Here's what I would say: there is something fundamentally wrong with an economy where the working people who power that economy cannot afford to have children that they want, There's something fundamentally wrong with an economy when the working people, who are the strength and source of all of its might, cannot provide for the children they have with the labor of their own hands. But, Madam President, that is our reality. That is where we are today, and it is time to do something about it. The test of this Congress will not be what we do for foreign nations. It will not be what we do for our largest corporations. It will not even be what we spend on defense or how we increase the nation's GDP, though those are important priorities. The test of this Congress will be whether we strengthen America's families and whether we deliver for America's working people. Because in those families lies the hope of this nation. And in those working people resides the wellspring of our great national strength. The well-being of our families and of our working people is not one priority among many, I submit to you. It is not one more interest to satisfy. It is a moral imperative. It is our overriding moral obligation, and it is for this Congress a moral test. And for every Republican who went out and campaigned on strengthening families, on delivering for working people, for every Republican who has hailed the new working class coalition that President Trump has assembled, this is the time to deliver. This is the time to stand up and be counted. Rhetoric on the campaign trail is cheap. Delivering actual solutions, delivering actual results here in this body, that's the acid test. And that's where we are today, Madam President. Now, it's time for this new majority, this Republican majority, to stand up and be counted. It's time to deliver on the agenda that we ran on. It is time to realize the promise that our voters have invested in us. It's time to realize the hope for the future that our voters are counting on us to deliver.
Shots fired, my boy. Um, I don't know, like I don't try to read too deep in the body language, but I do, you know, kind of dabble in it a little bit. This is definitely shots fired from Josh Hawley. Um, it's kudos. As you can kind of tell, he had like a little pep in his step in this part of the speech. He definitely had like a little bit of a smirk. Um, he knew what he was going to say was going to be a real challenging bar, and he really got him. He cut him by the knees, and this is the kind of Republican Party that I do want to see. Just because as, as a descendant of black slaves, we look at what minus Abraham Lincoln, we look at what the Republican Party used to do for us. And, you look at what the Reconstruction period did for us and how so many people were willing to join the Republican Party after slavery and really do amazing things, whether it was the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment, the Civil Rights Acts of the 1866, 1871, and just a lot of the agenda that kind of came. Then you look at Teddy Roosevelt. I mean, he was definitely an economic populist. He's the reason why we even have antitrust laws in this country. He's the reason why we even have veteran support in this country and a GI Bill. Um, and he was literally one of the first ones to ever invite a black man to the White House. So, and then, we love to sit here and talk about what the Democrats Party did in the 1960s, but the reality is a lot of that had started and the progressive movement had started within the Republican Party in the 1950s. And a lot of them were actually trying to get the Civil Rights Bill passed, but there was not enough votes. So, of course, uh, Link, uh, when JFK died, LBJ was able to push it. And of course, that was it for the Republican Party. Um, of course, I have a lot of historical facts about Nixon that are not good, Reagan that are not good. Y'all already know who Daddy Bush and Baby Bush is. Um, so I really do want to see a complete turnaround of the Republican Party to get back to its roots, to get back to its Grant shit, to get back to its Teddy Roosevelt shit, really incorporate minorities, um, which were the pretty much the building block of the Republican Party. Without blacks in the late 1800s, after during the Reconstruction period, there would have never been a powerhouse of the Republican Party like there is today. It would have just been another failed, flopped party. And of course, people are gonna be like, "Well, Caleb, you're black. You should support the Democrats." I implore you to actually present a policy, a major piece of legislation in the past 100 years that ultimately benefited us. And just you can just go ahead and skip the civil rights bill, because the reality is LBJ didn't even want to pass it. Um, and literally it was, as it has been said, he was like, "Yeah, we're gonna keep having you niggers vote for us for decades and decades and decades once we pass this bill." And literally, that was the solidifying bill that was passed, and black folks have just been voting Democrat since. Um, I do think that there are some people that truly have a great agenda. Um, but the reality is the Democratic Party is not for black folks. So
And to meet that test, to meet this moral priority, we must reshape our nation's tax policy and indeed rebuild our nation's economy around our nation's families. And the surest way to do that is to reform and expand the child tax credit. The child tax credit was first proposed in its earliest form by President Ronald Reagan, who was looking for a way back in the 1980s in circumstances not so dissimilar from ours to deliver real, meaningful tax relief to working families with children. And then in 1994, the famous Contract with America promised what became today's modern child tax credit to deliver, once again, real tax relief for every working family in this country. And now it is time for us, again, to strengthen that pledge and that promise and to deliver new and powerful tax relief for every family that will help strengthen our working families, help put our workers on a firmer foundation, help get our economy working again for the people who make it work for the entire nation. Now, under current law, the child tax credit is available to eligible families with up to $2,000 in tax credit relief per child. Here's my suggestion. Here's my proposal. We should more than double that amount. We should dramatically increase it. We should make it $5,000 per child. And more than that, Madam President, we ought to allow families to apply this tax relief against payroll taxes. Currently, even families who are paying into the payroll tax system, that is, families who have a job, workers who have a job, a mom and a dad who are paying taxes, they can't begin to claim the child tax relief until they meet a certain threshold of income. My view is this: we ought to allow them to start applying this tax relief against every dollar that they pay into the payroll tax system. Most working class families pay considerable sums in payroll taxes, but relatively little in income taxes. And there's a lot of misinformation about this, a lot of misnomers out there, many of them, sadly, repeated by some who call themselves conservatives. We all heard that old saw that 47% of American taxpayers, American workers, don't actually pay into the tax system. That's just not true. Every worker who has a job is paying payroll taxes. That's over 15%. And many of them are paying full freight because they're self-employed or they're gig workers. My point is this: if you've got a job and you're working, you're paying into America's tax system, you're paying payroll taxes. And for families, many working class families, they are paying significant sums in payroll taxes. But because of the increased threshold for income taxes, they don't have a whole lot of income tax liability. So the challenge is, how do we deliver real and meaningful tax relief to these working class families who are paying significant amount of money in payroll taxes, but yet don't qualify for those income tax deductions and benefits that higher earners get, like the home mortgage deduction, for instance. That only kicks in if you are at a certain level of income. For many working class families, they don't qualify for those deductions. They don't qualify for those tax expenditures, but yet they're paying significant sums in payroll taxes every single year. This proposal delivers significant tax relief to them. It allows them to claim tax relief for every child who they are raising. as they go out there and they work their jobs. And I would just say to you, this is how it was meant to be. The child tax credit, as it was proposed in its current form by that Republican Congress in the 1990s, as it was proposed in the Contract with America back in 1994, was supposed to be credited against payroll taxes. That was the original proposal. And there's good reason for that. These families are contributing to our economic system, to Social Security and Medicare. They're paying taxes along with everybody else, but right now they're not getting tax relief. The Contract with America was supposed to change that. Madam President, it is time to deliver on that promise. Make the child tax credit available against the first dollar earned in payroll taxes. Here's another change.
Bro, that nigga knew he was cooking. Like the way that nigga put his like arm on the podium, he was like, bro, that nigga, nigga that hey, he knew he was fucking cooking, bro. He knew he knew he was spitting some flame. Oh my God, bro. I bet you he walked out of there like on some boss nigga shit, just arms just flapping, just like, yeah, I'm that nigga. Ah, he probably started listening to Kendrick, They Not Like Us as he like walking. Oh, he knew he was cooking, boy.
We ought to deliver the credit to families in regular installments throughout the year. The truth is, many working families can't afford to wait until the end of the year to tally up and figure out how much tax credit they might get back, how much relief they might qualify for. They're paying their taxes in every single paycheck that they earn. It's coming out of their paycheck every couple of weeks or every month. We ought to be returning real tax relief to them in the same increments. So let's make it advanceable. Let's give it to families in installments that they can use across the year as they go out there and earn a living and pay their taxes. And we ought to make the credit available to expecting parents as well. We should say that.
Not only is he cooking, my boy just threw some ghost pepper sauce on it. He know what he said is some flame. Oh man, he put some ghost pepper sauce on what he was cooking. Yes, absolutely. Expecting parents, that is a huge, that is a huge, that's a huge step that's kind of going on. You have to go out there, look for diapers. You got to go out there, look for furniture. Chances are you want them to go ahead and have their own room. You got to have monitors. Um, there is a lot to that. Plus, some parents, once their maternity leave is up, they got to start looking for daycare. And so, of course, you definitely want to be able to save some money over that 9-month period. There's obviously doctor's expenses, so he is really hitting on all cylinders with that. And then two, I do got to give him a lot of credit too, because at the end of the day, this this cash advancement, I guess he's kind of saying throughout the year, it is a great policy. It's a great idea. Why should parents sit here and have to wait until February, um, March in order to get a tax refund check? Definitely have, of course, they'll have a smaller refund check because they're getting this cash advanced throughout the year, but I think that would be just, you know, a better move. You have a lot of ups and downs in your finances throughout the year, so it's better than just waiting until, February, March just to be nigger rich. But of course, this is also up to each parent to be responsible about what do they do with this money. That's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day. But yeah, I think he's right, completely right.
Parents who are expecting children, a child not yet born, ought to be able to claim that tax credit up to $5,000, depending on the amount of payroll taxes that they pay, even if the baby has not yet arrived. Pregnancy is costly. Hospital bills are outrageous, and working families who are expecting children should be able to claim tax relief on the same basis as families with older kids. Madam President, this plan would provide major generational tax relief for working families with children. And I emphasize working. What I propose is not social assistance. It is not social insurance, even. It is a tax cut. You have to work a job and pay taxes in order to earn the credit. But under our current system, too many families do work. Under our current system, too many do pay considerable sums in taxes but do not qualify for tax relief in any meaningful way. It is time to change that and make this relief available for working families. And this proposal advances a second important principle as well, and that's the principle that everyone who pays taxes ought to get relief, and relief ought to be available on the basis of family. Now, conservatives have said for years that family is the cornerstone of society. We've said for years that it's the first and irreplaceable building block of our nation. Well, our tax policy ought to reflect that. Our whole national policy ought to reflect that. And we shouldn't shy away from saying that we ought to deliver tax relief and tax cuts on the basis of family formation, on the basis of family size, and yes, on the basis of family need. Madam President, this is only a beginning. There's much more to do. We have years of decline of the American family to reverse. We have years of neglect of the American worker to undo. The challenges are indeed formidable, but this is the moment for the revival that we seek. And so, let us not delay. Let us begin. I yield the floor. We are
Um,
here in the second week.
yeah, Josh really delivered with this one. Um, if the Republican Party, this time around, especially by 2026, if they can get some real serious working class wins, um, if Trump is really actually able to get Bibi Netanyahu to stop this war, and we actually have a moment in time where we're not sponsoring new wars. And this is all just what if. I am very skeptical of all politicians. They say that the sky is blue. I'm still going to walk outside to double check. We've been lied to for too many years, too many decades, and definitely got to double check. But if this is the opportunity for some in the Republican Party to actually help the working class, to help the families, to actually help our pockets, I'm going to support it as long as it gets passed. I'm going to give credit where credit is due. Any politician on the Republican side that is actually doing stuff to the detriment of our well-being, like Lindsey Graham, like Mitch McConnell, I'm definitely going to call it out. But here we actually have um, a plan. So let's see if they can deliver. I don't know. Like I said earlier, they did vote against, a lot of the Republicans did vote against the child tax credit that happened. So we'll see. Of course, one of those guys that didn't even support it, but claimed to have supported was JD Vance. So that should be held against him. So the reality is, if Josh Hawley is able to really get some populist policies pushed, then we should really consider Josh Hawley for 2028 over JD Vance. I'm not really a fan of JD Vance. Um, he's definitely part of the um, intelligence wing, the spy wing of the Republican Party. Um, Definitely up there with David Sachs and Palantir and stuff. But yeah. I'm not going to go into all that right now, but hopefully this gets passed. Hopefully, he's got some more working class policies in the chamber. So we'll just wait and see. Um, this could be the beginning of something new, or this could just be, a play in our face. Who knows? But I'm definitely gonna give him good credit right here. And so yeah, y'all be good. Y'all be safe. Peace.